Hey, what's up, all of you beautiful subscribers? Welcome back to the Chapple Show. So what's one thing that rich people do that average people do not? We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about how to tell if you're middle class and, what is middle class. I saw an interesting article about that. We'll get into that. We're also going to talk about, Facebook, a weird scandal around that, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, some Bitcoin stock market stuff. Just a bunch of stuff. So today is a different episode because I'm recording this fairly early in the morning here. I won't have time later. So we're going to focus more on finance and less on the stock market today. But anyways, let's just jump right into this here. What is the one thing that rich people do that average people do not? And this comes from actually Susie Orman. I'll just play you 10-second clip here. Let you know my thoughts.
Don't buy something just because you can afford it. That's not the key. Buy what you need, no matter how wealthy you are. Because there does come a time when you have a lot of money and all of a sudden you bought a plane, you bought a boat, you bought 5 homes, you did this, and all of a sudden you look and you go, oh my God, I don't have any money.
What's funny for her is that, she says this like coming into a lot of money, you'll be able to buy a plane, 5 homes, a boat. And that's a lot of money in her world, which is, that's a little bit funny to think about because to a lot of people listening to this, a lot of money is just being able to pay rent, being able to pay your bills, being able to not have to think about, how much you are able to spend at your next grocery trip, right? But for her, it's 5 homes and a plane and a boat. So anyways, what she's trying to say here is that I'll give my analogy to this. When you're 60 years old, there's, usually 2 types of people. One, very comfortable, have, $500K, $1 million plus saved up in equity in their 401k in their house. And they're comfortable and they don't really have to think about money unless they live for another 40 years, unless they live till they're 100, okay? And there's the other type of people who are 60, still have like 100 grand saved up or less, but they're still working, still paycheck to paycheck. And what she's trying to say here is a big differentiator of those 2 types of people is that over the course of your lifetime, if you are buying stuff you don't need every day, every week, every month, and it's just not necessary, that adds up over time. And so what rich people do is they only buy stuff they need. A good example of this is just a random example of ways to save money is, they're usually if you go to the store and you want some fresh food, like some fresh chicken or something, there's usually like 2 or 3 tiers of the same thing. There's usually like the low end, whatever Walmart brand, and then there's the next one up and the next one up. And the Walmart brand is probably just as good for you as the super high tier brand, but it costs half as much. But people will go with the high-end brand because they think it's better and it's not necessary, and they're essentially just burning $10 a kilogram versus getting the cheaper brand. And so just kind of buying what you need, and it's not just for food. That's just one example. It's when you go to the store, impulse buying, right? All that stuff when you go to the checkout counter, there's all that gum and those magazines and who wants to know what happened to Jennifer Aniston's baby or whatever. I don't even know if she has a baby. But just buying stuff you don't need. I always, that's the one thing that I'm very, very, very good at is not buying things that I don't need. And that's why I can make, a $5,000 purchase of a server and not blink. Right? And how I buy a few very big essential things, like I'll buy a server, I'll buy a computer, I'll buy a big expensive motorized desk for $1,000. And I'll buy big purchases, but they're necessary if I want to grow my business or have a healthier lifestyle. I bought an indoor gym here recently, a few days ago. I just set it up, $500 or no, $800. It was somewhere around, I don't even know how much it was. Probably like $700, $800. But I am able to make those purchases because I don't go out and spend $25 on random toys or games or whatever. Some people like to have those in-app purchases right when they play games. I don't do any of that stuff. And so for you guys, that's what she's trying to say here is like, don't buy too much stuff that you don't need until you save up. Maybe you have $5 million and then you are $1 million or $100,000. Then sure, you can go out and spend some of it. If you've saved up 100 grand in 1 year, go out and spend a few $1,000s. Sure, why not? Take a trip somewhere. You've done well, kid. But at the end of the day, you still got to be responsible. And that's what she's trying to say here. Now, for her, it's fancy cars and private jets and 5 homes. For most people, it's, 10 grand and maybe only spending 150. of that on random stuff for luxury, right? That's what she's trying to say here. So what do you guys think of this article? What do you guys think of, by the way, Susie Orman, one of those people, she has a really interesting story because she started out in the financial world in the 80s, and she started out as essentially an entry-level position. Then she got, one position up in some investing company, and then she worked at Merrill Lynch, and but she didn't really make a lot of money there, and so she quit, started her own financial investment group. But the thing is that she wasn't really rich when she started that, and she was still not doing well, and she didn't really have good investment advice when she started too. Like, she lost $50,000 or something putting her money in a bad financial group or something along those lines, allegedly, right? I need to protect myself, allegedly. But then, yeah, she's just one of those people that got rich off of telling other people how to get rich, which is kind of, I don't know. That's the reason why I've tried to start other companies, is like, I love talking about this stuff. I love talking about business and finance, but there's something that just doesn't sit right with me. Financial education is very important. It's those people who go out there and say, like, look, you're going to get rich, like Susie Orman, like, look, you can get rich. All you have to do is save all your money. And, just put your mind to it. And, eventually, if you put your mind and dig down deep and work hard for 10 years, you'll be able to start $1 million company. And that's not how it works. You actually have to go out there and build something. And it takes a long time. It's not, whatever business you want to start. If you want to sell, usually you have to sell stuff. Sometimes you have to start your business. Sometimes you have to work your way up through the company. It all really depends. Everyone has a different avenue of how to actually make money. And it's just, a lot of those gurus out there, they just say, look, cut up your credit cards and do the Dave Ramsey thing. Like, put your mind to it and you'll be rich when you're X amount of years old. And it's just tough. I know they're giving general advice out too, and it's all good. I'm not trying to rip all these people. I'm just trying to say here that it just doesn't sit right with me when people have those $1 million secrets, right? There's one guy on YouTube who's like, he's made $1 million this year and made $1 million selling courses, but he doesn't tell you that. He says, look, I made $1 million by putting my mind to it. I made $1 million by working real hard. And, but he just doesn't come out and say, like, look, I sell courses about how to teach people how to make $1 million. And, that's, I don't know. Some stuff like that just doesn't sit right with me. You got to be open and honest about that stuff with people. So, anyways, that's Susie Orman. That's my rant on that stuff. Let's move on here. How to tell if you're average or middle class. All right. So no one can agree what middle class means. So I stumbled upon this because I actually, I still kind of think, I thought I was middle class before watching this and reading this article here. I thought I was middle class. Probably in terms of income, upper middle class. But here's the income levels. So 70% of people think that they are middle class, yet only 50% of the population is. According to the U.S. Census, being middle class means making $55,000, $775,000 as a household, or between $24,000 and $72,000 as a single person, or for a household making $34,000 to $102,000. So we'll go back to a single person here because most of you are young, probably not married yet. So if you are making less than $24,000, you are considered lower class. And if you're above $72,000, you're upper class, if you make that per year. And so I didn't really know that I was upper class until watching this video, which is kind of strange to think about because it doesn't really feel like it. It does not really feel like it at all. I guess it's because this is my first year where I've done very, very well. Last year, I was definitely middle class last year. But this is the first year where I've done very well. And so I guess I haven't had the time to buy a super big house or a nice car or, whatever. I'm still plugging away here at the age of 23. So let's, where do you guys lie on this stuff? Did you actually know that was middle class? I guess I could have kind of assumed because I always knew that the median household income was about $50K. I knew that the median personal income in the United States is about $34,000, and for people my age, it's below $22,000. Below $24,000. So, yeah, if you're a millennial, middle class is probably somewhere between like $15K a year and $50. So if you're making above 50 and you're around my age, you're probably doing pretty good. So good for you. Anyways, I actually didn't know any of this stuff. So The average American family would get $4,000 raise under president's tax cut plan. So how could any member of Congress be against this? Well, you're not getting a raise. You're just cutting social programs, and each people get to save about $4,000 on taxes. So, anyways, I'm a fan of tax cuts for the middle class. I am. It's just, when people word it like this, like, oh, well, you're going to go from making $34,000 to $38,000 and there's going to be no repercussions. I mean, that's not how it works. I'm a fan of tax cuts. I'm just, you got to explain it properly to people. So bad job there from Sarah Sanders. All right, let's move on here. Let's move on to Facebook. Let's talk about Facebook here. Actually, let's click on this video, but I'll give you the backstory. Facebook kind of got into this controversy. They were the number one post on Reddit. They might be the number one posted video of all time on there right now, where essentially what happened was this person posted on Facebook and said, I think Facebook's listening to us because what's happening is we're having conversations and the Facebook app is closed on our phone. And I'll be talking to my wife, not on the phone, but in person. We'll be carrying around the phone, though. And we'll talk about cats. And all of a sudden, then the next day, we'll get ads for cats. And I'll just show you a quick clip here.
All right, so all day, we are going to be talking about cat food. Because I could use some cat food.
Well, the cat is almost out of food, so...
we might need some cat food.
We should buy.
So they talk about cat food.
And there you have it. Cat food.
And then
so
2 days later, he gets one ad for cat food and it pops up. Okay, so my explanation for this is I agree with Facebook. I do not think that Facebook's listening to you through your phone. I don't think that they have permission. I think that's a big security risk. I think that's against the law. I think that there's no way that they're doing that. However, I think that this ad is true. I feel like this ad did pop up on this person's screen. That cat food did pop up, but there's a bunch of reasons. Maybe they have a cat, and maybe they like to buy food around the same time every single month. Like, you can target those things. Maybe they bought cat food online before and it pops up occasionally. There's a bunch of explanations for that, but I do not think that Facebook's listening into you through your phone without permission. I don't think that they even could do that right now. I mean, that'd be more of an Apple thing, to be honest. I think Apple controls the hardware. Facebook is more of the software, right? So what do you guys think about this? Do you think that Facebook's listening into people and using that to target people with ads? I think that there's no chance that that's an actual thing that's happening. But that's just me. What do you guys think about that whole situation? Let me know in the comments down below. I mean, I can't believe that people actually believe that this is true. But anyways, it's the government trying to spy on us. Government and Facebook. They've been targeting me for years. That's a bad Alex Jones impression. Sorry, my voice is really sore. It is pretty early in the morning right now. Let's move on to GameStop. GameStop. This is kind of exciting because they're coming out with a game rental scheme. Something that people under the age of 18 have probably never heard of before. You could rent. What are you talking about? You could rent a game for $7, beat it, and then bring it back, and it's only cost you $7. Yes, that is actually what happened back in the good old days before microtransactions and online video games. And so GameStop is actually going to let you do that now. So pretty much what they're going to let you do is for $60, you get a 6-month subscription to this service called Power Pass. $60 total, so $10 a month. What you can do is you go in and for any of their pre-owned games, so essentially any game that's beyond 4 or 5 months old, even 3 months old, you can go in there, you can rent it, bring it back whenever you want over the course of 6 months. You can only rent out one game at a time. If you don't bring it back, they already got your $60. And so you can only take out one game at once, so it's not a big loss to them. It's like you bought it. And if you can take the game back and you can go rent out another one and take it back and go rent. So theoretically, if you could binge a game every single day, you could play like 180 games over the course of this 6-month period that you get to rent here. So it's kind of really cool. I really like this idea. I might actually try it. I might actually sign up for this because I don't really care about the new releases a lot, but it could be a good business model, and they think of it as a way of essentially selling pre-ordered games or getting money out of those pre-owned games. It's a really good idea. I really like it. I'm probably going to sign up for this, even though I don't really play games that much anymore. So what do you guys think of this? Are you guys going to try out this rental video game service here? I'm really interested. Let me know in the comments down below here. Who knows if it'll even affect their bottom line? I don't think it will too much, but it is quite interesting because and at the end of the 6 months, you actually get to keep one pre-owned game that you played. So the examples they have here is like the pre-owned games here is like Madden 17. Or Zelda, the last Zelda game, or Horizon, or the last Pokemon game, or the last, games that have been out for a few months right now, but they aren't super, super new. So they aren't like, what's some game that come out in the past month? I don't even know. But anyways, it's a really cool idea. I really like it. Hopefully that this can be like a mainstay at GameStops, and maybe I'll give it a shot. I think so. Anyways, well, let's move on to Nintendo. Okay, Nintendo, they actually beat their amount of Switches that they have sold in the last quarter is actually up. And so they've raised the forecast from 10 million units to 14 million units, I believe, this year. So, of course, because after this announcement, because the stock market is the way it is, their stock actually dropped. Which is, it's just really funny how that works. But yeah, so Nintendo announcing that's just a quick story I wanted to cover here. They announced that they've sold more units. Nintendo revenues and operating profit beat the market expectation in its fiscal second quarter. The Japanese giant also raised its revenue and profit outlook for the rest of the year. So Nintendo's a company that's on its way up here. Let's look at Nintendo stock on a macro scale, actually. I wasn't going to look at this in depth, Nintendo stock, because I believe that they're one of the ones that got hit by the tech bubble, right? Yeah. So their stock price was 70,000. What's their currency in Japan here? I don't know. Whatever the Japanese currency is, 70,500. Oh, that was in 2007. Oh, okay. So Nintendo was at its peak in 2007, right before the stock market crash. And then right now, if you bought the stock on November 2nd, 2007, you would still have a 40% loss today. Even though Nintendo has gone up roughly 78% this year. Oh my goodness. If you bought Nintendo this year, you would have had a 78% gain. So Nintendo's had a good year. The stock is dropping as of today. What's the market? Is there a close time right now? I don't know what the close time is in Japan. Is it 3 o'clock in there right now? I don't even know. But yeah, Nintendo stock has gone down slightly after having a by the way, all the tech stocks, anything tech or video game related, has had a really, really good quarter, like the best ever. We're going to talk about the Amazon one in a second here. But yeah, all the tech and video game stocks have done very, very well. So what do you guys think about this too? I should have talked about this after the Facebook one, but smart devices everywhere could start doing all the shopping and billing. And so essentially, like, are you okay if like your car goes and refills itself? Or I guess if it's electric, or goes and charges itself? Are you okay if you have a smart fridge that that knows what you like to eat and orders food for you if you have one beer left in the fridge, it goes and orders you, another 12. Are you okay with that? With something knowing what you eat and having that be in some sort of cloud somewhere, or just behind some sort of firewall for your house? Are you okay with that? I am. I'm totally okay with that. Now, would I like someone going into my house and stalking the fridge? Probably not. I've talked about that with the Amazon key thing. I'll be one of those people. I'll hold off on that for a couple of years and see how it goes. Then I might buy in if it's proven to actually be good and no one, breaks into people's houses and so on. But and I'm sure that there won't be any lost dogs or cats that get let out of the house or anything. Anyways, sorry, I still like how the Amazon key ad didn't have, the classic male 200-pound guy with beard, installing the key and delivering the packages. It was like some 110-pound supermodel girl that couldn't be any less threatening, right? It was they put in a bunch of people like, oh, you're gonna let in like a little girl into your house. You're not letting it, or a little skinny woman into your house. You're not letting in this giant neckbeard dude who's more likely going to be delivering your packages. Anyways, what do you guys think about this? I would be okay. Like if I'm okay with the day the car goes and charges itself. Again, if safety ends up being confirmed as being okay, I'm okay with someone, stocking my fridge up. A little bit creepy, but I'm okay with that as long as I don't know. You know what? I'm not okay with that. Even in the future, I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But pretty much, are you okay if some cloud somewhere stores all of your information and knows what you like and is kind of eternally listening to you, like Amazon Echo, like listening to you? Are you okay with that? I kind of am. I'm on the fence about that right now. I'm sure that I'll switch over eventually. I mean, I wasn't a fan of Facebook when that started. I mean, I wasn't a fan of Instagram or Twitter or social media in general. I hopped on those bandwagons about a year or two after all my friends were on them. So, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But what do you guys think? Would you guys be okay with having smart devices everywhere in your house? And even if they could, like, automatically pay all of your bills for you? Like, that's one thing I do like. I would prefer if all of my bills and everything was automatic. A lot of them actually are. But, I just saving that extra 2, 3, 4 minutes, that could help. But I also see the other side too. The other side is, well, I don't want someone accessing my bank account. And that's also true. I don't want someone accessing my credit cards and just being able to pull out as much money as they see fit. I don't like that. But, you have to do that. You kind of get comfortable with it. Like some of my automatic payments that I've had were like going to the gym. When you sign up for a gym, they hook it up to your bank account here. And so they just deduct it out of your account every 2 to 4 weeks. There's a bunch of other stuff too. But what do you guys think about all that stuff? Let me know in the comments down below. Let's talk about Jeff Bezos, because Amazon had a massive, massive day last week. Let's look at the Amazon stock. I did not talk about it on Friday because what was I doing on Friday? I don't know. I was doing something on Friday. I missed the video. But look at this big jump here from Amazon. Amazon jumped up 13%, making their market cap's only $528 billion. I thought it was more than that. Anyways, Amazon had a 13% jump, and that made Jeff Bezos the richest person in the world, not just for one day, but currently still holds that title. Remember, a few months ago, Jeff Bezos was the richest man in the world, but it was only for a few hours before Amazon lost like 4%, and then Bill Gates overtook him again. But right now, Jeff Bezos worth $90 billion. Bill Gates worth $88.5 billion. So he has a nice cushion here. We're going to see what happens. I do expect today to have some sort of drawback. I don't really know what it's going to be, but I feel like all the tech stocks were so hot last week after their earnings reports that I can't see. There has to be some sort of correction to that. I don't know. That's just my prediction. We'll see if I'm right or not. I do think that the stocks will kind of bounce back a little bit. And Jeff Bezos might still be the richest person in the world. We'll see. But $90 billion, guys. $90 billion. So this could be the first time in a few years that someone takes the title of richest person in the world away from Bill Gates for more than a week. I think that Carlos Slim took the title away in like 2007 or something, right? And Warren Buffett also had it for a little bit too. But Bill Gates, I mean, think about how Bill Gates has essentially had this title for a few decades, apart from missing a year or two here or there. $90 billion. Imagine that. I mean, think about this. The most expensive house in the world that is on the market, or most expensive house in the United States that's on the market, is like $250 million. And that place is ridiculous. It's in like Beverly Hills on a mountain somewhere. And he could buy, 100 of those and still have 50 or still have 65 billion left over. I mean, how crazy is that? So, anyways, what do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments down below. Let's move on here. A new way to pay the shopping loan. People these days, pretty much, I was going to talk about this a little bit more, but people these days, they're getting really detached from their money. This is what I wanted to talk about here. It's kind of not related to the article too much, but, you know, it's something that actually Dave Ramsey does talk about, and I do agree with, that when you pay cash for something, you are more likely to spend less cash. Okay, so if you're going to go to the grocery store and you have $50 cash, and you need $50 and you need $40 worth of food, you're very likely to only spend that $40. But if you have a credit card and no cash and you're paying with credit cards, you're more likely to spend $45. Why? Because you are less attached to credit cards than you are to cash. And this is actually proven in the brain. When you spend money with a credit card, you don't have that attachment of a loss of money, or that loss of, money and time are kind of all tied up together. And so when you use cash, you actually have a loss firing. Like you have this part of your brain that triggers versus when you just use credit cards. And so these days people are using credit cards. They're like, oh, it's not my money, it's the credit card company. And then they get behind on it, and essentially they start paying for groceries and stuff that they don't need. Well, groceries you do need, but in terms of like buying whatever, those magazines that you don't need, because they have a detachment from their money. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit here, is that you can't, every time you go to the store, you got to think, just go there. And again, this is good advice from Susie Orman. Just go there and get what you need. Don't get anything more. Don't go for the impulse buys. You don't need that magazine. You just go and get your food and get out. And that's it. And that's all you really need. So anyways, how shopping loans work. Yeah, I read this over. It's actually kind of crazy. Getting loans for shopping, but that's some just big financial advice I could give to you guys is, if you use credit cards and you are responsible, that is one of the best decisions you can make actually for your credit score, for ability to buy a house in the future. My credit score is over 800 and I'm 23. And because I've never been late on any payments, I've had credit cards since I was 18. I've paid back everything in full essentially within a few days. Credit card companies like me. They like me a lot because they know I will pay back everything on time. And in fact, it's not just good for your credit score, but your rewards. I talked about this in one of the last episodes too. This year, I've probably been able to pay off hundreds of dollars worth of credit card balances just because I've been able to pay everything on time. And so it's just free money right there. It's free money of credit card rewards. And I remember there was that one bill where I paid off, $150 or $200 just because I saved up enough credit cards rewards over time. And this credit card that I have right now, I think that the yearly fee is, probably under $100. I don't know what the exact number is, but again, that's just free money right there. If you just pay on time, and then you can get free money like that. So that's something I recommend you guys look into, is depending on how much you spend on your credit card though. So for example, on mine, I spent, tens of thousands this year on mine over the course of this year. And so, I get hundreds of dollars of rewards. But for you guys, if you only spend $1,000, you might only get $10 of rewards. So maybe you get the free credit card versus the one that's $100 a year. So it's all up to you guys. That's a whole separate video. Let's move on to Elon Musk. Elon Musk, he just posted a picture of the boring tunnel. I just like to post this stuff because it's cool. It's cool because this was just a wacky idea he had 2 years ago, and it's happening because he doesn't like traffic. So this is a picture of the actual boring tunnel that has been built under the SpaceX parking lot, I believe. It's an actual tunnel, and it looks cool. And for all of you listening in podcast form, it looks like it's probably, a few hundred meters long, at least. And then there's a kind of a turn at the end here, and it's lit. And it looks like a legitimate tunnel. It's cement, and it looks stable. And there's pipes going down the side here for, I guess, electricity. Those are probably electricity cables. It looks cool. He's come a long way, but again, you've only probably dug a few hundred meters, maybe a kilometer. You only got a few hundred more kilometers to go, and you've collected space, and then you would have finally connected your house to the SpaceX. He wants to connect his house to the SpaceX parking lot so that he doesn't have to commute. Kind of a funny idea. We'll see if he does it. The city's not going to allow him to do it, but anyways, that's enough of that. Let's move on to Bitcoin. Bitcoin, I just needed to talk about this quickly because it hit a new all-time high, of course, $6,000, I believe, today or yesterday. And it just keeps on climbing, guys. It keeps on climbing here, and it's scaring me more and more. But again, like when I started making these videos about business news, I think that it was somewhere around here, like $2,800. And so, I mean, if you bet on Bitcoin, then congrats, you made $3,000, $3,500. Again, it's just something I really wish I could invest in stuff like this, but there's no guaranteed return. Like, I don't bet on currencies either. I don't bet on gold. I don't bet on silver. That's speculation. That's what Bitcoin is. I mean, unless you live in New York or you live in downtown LA, you cannot live on Bitcoin. Or unless you live in some very urban city that accepts a bunch of Bitcoin payments, I mean, you can't live on that stuff. And so it doesn't really have a utility to me right now. If it has a utility to me, I'll look into buying it. But as of this current second, it's still speculation to me. Still too risky for me. I know it's made a bunch of millionaires this year. Again, at the end, but here's the other thing too. You know what? I've been thinking about this more and more recently about how I want to make my money. And obviously I want to build my own company. I'm building my tech stuff and my e-commerce and all that. But, you know, the more I get into this, the more I realize, like, I am not really in this for, you know, the money itself. It's going to buy a lot of things. I value freedom. That's what money gives me. But I want to make it in a way where, like, I earned it. And if you just guess that Bitcoin will double in the next year, I mean, that's good. It's a really good investment. I don't want to sound like a jealous, whatever. If you make money in Bitcoin, you know, that's great. It's better than, you know, than obviously not. And it's better than doing nothing with your money. 100%. If you make money with Bitcoin, good. More power to you. It's just not how I want to make mine. I want to make mine actually building something. I want to be the guy who builds the Bitcoin, right? I'm coming to realize that. Like, I just don't want to, I want to be the guy who people invest in and not be the one who does the investing. I'm coming to realize that more and more and more. I still want to invest in real estate a ton. I mean, that's kind of my dream. If I could make $1 billion, I mean, you know, here's my dream theoretical scenario is if I were to build up, you know, $1 billion company someday, and it's a tech company, I'd probably want to sell it off and then start my own real estate company with that $1 billion. So that'd kind of be my dream, I think, one day, but we'll see what happens with that. How do you guys want to make your money? Do you want to do it through investing? Do you want to do it through business? What do you want to do it through? Would you want to just be given a bunch of money? I don't know. I think that, I mean, here's my thought, because I've kind of been through all the stages of wealth. Well, not all of them. I still need to reach the pinnacle, right? But I think that if you're struggling to get by and, you know, paycheck to paycheck and you can't pay for gas or you're a poor student, then obviously you take the free money. Like, you want money as any way you can get it. If it's the lottery, if it's Bitcoin, if it's whatever, then yeah, just getting yourself to that point where you're comfortable financially, that's a big step. But then once you get to that point, it's kind of like you kind of want to earn it a little bit more, I think, especially if you're young. I mean, if you're old and you're just getting comfortable, sure, win the lottery and go live the rest of your life and have fun. But I think that if you're young and you're just starting to get comfortable financially, I feel like it's kind of in people to want to earn something and do more. I don't know. That's just my thought on that. And that's, to be honest, though, like, that's kind of what's needed for the economy to do well, too. It's like you need those entrepreneurs out there to go out there and build stuff. I mean, there's actually, isn't there only half the amount of publicly traded companies as there was 15 years ago? I mean, people aren't building up big companies anymore. People aren't going public with them anymore. And so that's why all these valuations are so high right now, too, is that there's a lot less companies to invest in, but there's a lot more people wanting to invest. And so that's causing PE ratios and valuations for companies go through the roof right now. Anyways, we're going to move on here to just one thing which I just want to touch on just quick, and then we'll close this video out. Is just, I don't know who this is actually, but apparently they're a big home builder in the United States. In Canada, our home builder is called Mattamy Homes. They're the biggest in Canada, but he's one of our few billionaires. And Peter Gilligan, he actually bought out part of a hospital donated money to part of the hospital and donated money to a bunch of stuff in my hometown. He built a gym and stuff, and he's done some good stuff with this money for health. Like he's hospitals and gyms and recreational centers, they all have his name on it. He's donated hundreds of millions of dollars to that stuff. But Lennar is buying a small rival for $9.3 billion to create America's largest home builder. And so this is big. This is big, guys. I mean, essentially this one giant mega company is going to own 1,400 communities in 49 different markets in the United States with a market cap of about $18 billion. So this is going to create one of the biggest real estate companies in the world, let alone the United States here. So this is big news. Even if you haven't heard of the company, I thought I'd mention it because this is one of the biggest transactions. I mean, this is probably the biggest transaction since Whole Foods, right? And yet no one's going to talk about it because it's not Amazon and it's not Whole Foods. This is Lennar and Cal Atlantic. So, Cal Atlantic because California and Atlantic's the East Coast, right? So that's kind of a cool name. But what do you guys think about this? I don't know. I think that it's a weird opinion on this because whenever a company buys out another company, I mean, $9.3 billion, eh? Meaning that, so Lennar's not too much bigger than their rival that they're buying out here. Because if they're paying a 27% premium for the Cal Atlantic stock, so that probably values Cal Atlantic at somewhere around, $8 billion. And so Lennar is only a couple $1 billion bigger than Cal Atlantic, but they're buying them out. That's actually a really interesting move. So this is going to be closer to a merger, I think, than anything else. So Cal Atlantic stock up 20%, Lennar stayed about the same. That's actually interesting how that works out here. Anyway, so I'm a fan. Like, if you want to go sell your company and buy it out, like, that's cool. It's just when two of the biggest real estate, I don't like monopolies unless, I don't know. It's the kind of a weird situation with that stuff because monopolies can do a good thing for the world. I mean, John D. Rockefeller, that he owned the biggest monopoly in the history of time, that was still under a democracy in the United States. He owned all of the oil. He owned like 80% of the oil in North America under his companies. Like, perspective, he owned Chevron and Exxon and Shell and Esso. All of those companies were his. And GE. Like, he owned all of those companies, and then they eventually had to get split up because he became a monopoly. But you know what he did, though? Is that because he was able to do that stuff and implement his version of oil and undercut all the oil prices for all of his competitors, he provided the ability to give cheap oil and energy to average people. That was him. You know, he cut the cost of oil down. It was some ridiculous number, like 90% or something like that. And so that's a good thing that a monopoly can do. Now, some of his business practices were terrible. He did some bad things for all the smaller oil businesses out there. Obviously, killed a lot of them off, but probably a net positive for, just the energy field as a whole and America as a whole. And so, when you think of big monopoly companies out there, like people think Google's a monopoly. I mean, kind of, but is Google a good thing for the world? Yeah. So I'm really torn on this stuff because it's always good to have competition. But at the same time, like, monopolies are not all evil, right? You can have a monopoly and have it still be a net positive for the world and the economy. So that's my opinion on that. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. So I think that's going to wrap this video up here. I'd like to thank you very much for watching. You can check out my stock market program if you want to learn how to set up your stock market account and stuff. That's in the link down below. Also, the Wealth Accelerator too. That's a program, and that's like how many hours is? I always forget. It's 14 or 16 hours of video content on there, and it just kind of takes you through the mindset of, what it takes to start a business versus what happens, right when you start it versus what happens right after you start doing well versus what happens after you like achieve all your goals and stuff, like what to do after that, because people don't really realize that. That's one of my favorite videos I've ever made was what happens after you achieve your goals. And I remember I told this story in the videos, like, when I started essentially starting businesses in university, even though I started essentially much younger, but I took it seriously in university and I went full force couple of years ago now, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now. But But like, I remember I would have been happy, or I said I would have been happy with just making 40 grand a year, working for myself. And that was my end goal. If I could do that within the next 5 years and work for myself making 40 grand, I would have been happy. And then, I achieved that in like 6 months. And it's like, okay, well, what now? And I don't know, that's just a really cool talk about, I don't know. Just go check it out and link down below if you want to listen to that stuff. Anyways, I'd like to thank you very much for watching. You're all very beautiful people, and I'll see you guys in the next video.